Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Welcome to Horizons in Ethics and Emerging Technologies here at the Collegio Carlo Alberto. Thank you for joining us all in Turin, particularly those who came from such a long distance. And we hope this will be the beginning of a lasting initiative, one that's focused on building serious, practically relevant ethical work around the most consequential technologies of our time. Before we move into our first panel, we'll start with 3 short institutional welcome addresses that should help to situate today's event and the broader mission of HEET, the Hub for Ethics and Emerging Technologies. First, we'll hear from Luca Lo Sapio. He is Associate Professor of Moral Philosophy at the University of Turin here. Luca is also the editorial coordinator of the international journal Scienza and Filosofia, and he is one of our fellows at the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies. Second, we'll hear from Vincenzo Crupi. He is Professor of Philosophy of Science and the former Director of the Center for Logic, Language, and Cognition at the University here in Turin. He has been central to supporting the institutional foundations that make initiatives like HEET possible, and he will offer brief remarks on why this kind of work matters. And thirdly, we will hear from James Hughes. He is the Executive Director of the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies. He's a sociologist widely known for his work on transhumanism, Buddhism, techno-progressive politics, and emerging technologies. He will close this opening set of remarks by situating HEET within the larger IEET ecosystem and the international conversation around responsible innovation. So we're grateful to all 3 for being here for us this morning. And after these remarks, we'll move directly into the first panel of the day. So with that, let me invite Professor Luca Lo Sapio to begin.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. First, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Stephen Umbrello, who made incredible efforts to organize this conference today, and for all his work at the Erato Center and the Institute of Ethics and Emerging Technologies. I would also like to thank Professor Cristiano Calì for organizing this event. I'm speaking here on behalf of Professor Antonio Lucci, the president of Erato. In this short presentation, I will introduce Erato, the Ethical Research Center on Anthropology and Technology, and outline its mission, research areas, and main activities. I will also highlight the connection with the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies. So Erato is a research center based at University of Turin within the Department of Philosophy and Education Sciences. It is devoted to exploring the ethical, social, and anthropological implications of emerging technologies with a strong interdisciplinary approach that brings together philosophy, science, and technological research. In this sense, Erato can be understood as a platform where philosophical reflection engages directly with contemporary technological transformations. This is based on the idea that the impact of new technological scenarios is transforming the very fabric of our society and human identity. These changes are determining challenges, new opportunities, and risks for the continuation of our species in its current form that need to be investigated using a multifaceted approach. Erato aims to promote dialogue between the different areas of Turin's moral philosophy. On the one hand, there is philosophical anthropology and the philosophy of technology, fields in which Turin aims to become a leading national and European hub. On the other hand, there is applied ethics and practical philosophy, as demonstrated by Bioetica TO and FEET, 2 research groups that I coordinate. Erato also aims to establish scientific connections and collaborations within Turin's university ecosystem. In particular, Erato is collaborating with ART, the aesthetic research based in Turin, LLC, the Center for Logic, Language and Cognition, and CIRSE, the Interdepartmental Center for Communication Studies. A crucial aspect of Erato is its collaboration with the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies, and this collaboration is based on a shared research agenda focusing on the ethical, social, and political implications of emerging technologies. Both Erato and the Institute work on some key issues, such as artificial intelligence and its societal impacts, human enhancement and bioethical boundaries, the governance of technological innovation. More specifically, this partnership aims to establish an international research network dedicated to the humanities of the digital age, promoting joint research, academic exchange, and dissemination activities. Erato thus represents a European node within a broader global effort to rethink ethics in the age of advanced technologies. Erato's mission is to develop new conceptual tools and new conceptual frameworks for understanding how the human condition is transforming in a technological mediated world. Rather than simply reacting to technological change, Erato aims to anticipate its implication and contribute to the development of responsible human-centered innovation. The underlying assumption is that technology is not neutral. It reshapes our values, identities, and understanding of what it means to be human. As I anticipated earlier, Erato's research is organized around several core areas. A central focus is the ethics of artificial intelligence, in particular in relation to trust, responsibility, and transparency. Another key area is human enhancement and bioethics, where the center explores the ethical limits and opportunities of intervening in human biology and cognition. In addition, Erato works on the philosophy of technology and digital anthropology, analyzing how digital environments transform human agency, identity, and social interaction. Finally, the center also addresses emerging domains such as quantum technologies and the broader cultural and even theological implications of technological development. Erato combines research, education, and public engagement. It develops interdisciplinary research projects, often in collaboration with international partners. It organizes seminars, workshops, and conferences on topics such as artificial intelligence, bioethics, and the future of human agency, the history of culture and technology, and so forth and so on. For example, Erato regularly hosts interdisciplinary workshops on artificial intelligence and ethics, bringing together philosophers, scientists, and policy-oriented scholars. These initiatives are designed not only to analyze technological challenges, but also to explore possible frameworks for responsible innovation. Technological development is accelerating rapidly, often outpacing our ability to reflect on its ethical implications. In this context, Erato contributes to building conceptual and normative tools capable of guiding innovation in a responsible and human-centered direction. More fundamentally, it addresses a critical question: how should we rethink the human in the age of emerging technologies? In conclusion, Erato is not only a research center, laboratory, but a platform for critical reflection on the future of humanity. Through its collaboration with international partners, such as the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies, it contributes to a global effort to understand and responsibly shape the transformation of our time. Thank you for your attention, and now we welcome Professor Vincenzo Crupi for its speech.
Thank you, Luca, and thank you, the other organizers. I mean, surely Cristiano Cali, Steven Umbrello, this is an amazing event, so I won't take much time. I think it's just like a tiny contribution to kick off the real thing happening afterwards. Yes, I've been the director of this Center for Logic, Language and Cognition at the University of Turin. Now, I actually appear here as a president of the Honors School of the University of Turin, because that is a partner of the initiative, and I'm really glad to be here as contributing to support the initiative, the project. So maybe I just say a few words about the school. So schools of honors, typically, so the model, the organization model is they are like institutions within universities, and they provide a additional training program for students that have been selected on the basis of their, motivation and talent. So they have to pass through a selection process for that. And so the School of Honors in Turin is named after its founder, which is Ferdinando Rossi. Now, Ferdinando Rossi was a neuroscientist in Turin. He died, sadly, fairly young, in his 50s, like 10 years ago, after founding the institution and doing other very important things in the university. So Rossi's idea about the school was to have like a space, a platform for students with like this particular profile coming from any kind of subject matter, right? So their primary degree program may be anything, right? It can be like people, they want to be physicians or, lawyers or philosophers or mathematicians, whatever. So the idea was to give them an opportunity to get a high-quality training in a very strongly interdisciplinary setting, where they can achieve and develop skills and instruments to understand basically the contemporary world, right? So the idea was to help them understand and meet the challenges of our times. So when Steven and Cristiano told me about this idea of this event, I thought the match was really perfect, right? Because surely the problem, I mean, we are living very significant times with this idea of emerging, right? Emerging technologies. It's not just technologies. It's really emerging phenomena that we are facing, quite a lot of them, and we really need like advanced tools and a wide perspective in order to be ready to handle that. So in this sense, the spirit of the initiative is perfectly in line with the School of Honors Ferdinando Rossi, which I represent. So let me just finish with a quick remark. So I happen to be a philosopher of science, and from my perspective, there's an interesting thing about a project of this kind. That is, that there's two disciplines in the philosophy domain. That is philosophy of science and moral philosophy, right? Ethics. In many senses, they have been thought as sort of second philosophies, right, within the philosophy domain. This is surely the case for philosophy of science. For ethics, maybe that's a different story, but and I have this feeling that the kind of things that are happening around us in the world nowadays, including like these transformative technologies that we are seeing right now, they have changed this landscape a little bit. I have a feeling that these two areas of philosophy really need to get like center stage and strengthen very much their own connections. In many cases, in which we are bound to address ethical, political issues related to technological advancement. In many cases, the underlying methodological and foundational problems are also relevant. for us to clear up our path and decide what to do. Myself, I personally have a particular outlook on that because I also happen to be involved in research about decision theory, which is in many senses like a common ground between these two disciplines in particular. So there is just like a tiny remark about, from a very, specific perspective on the important things that you will be discussing further on. So I will stop here. I think it's time for James to step in, right? And then I just wish you a very, very fruitful exchange moving forward. Thank you.
I come to praise Steve Umbrello, but to understand how important Steve has been to me and the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies, you need to know where we come from, and that story starts obliquely with Anders Sandberg. When I was a graduate student at the University of Chicago in 1991, I was teaching in the medical ethics program, and I wrote a defense of human genetic engineering called Embracing Change with All Four Arms. Needless to say, my fellow ethicists were appalled at my heresy. Then I got an email address, it was 1991, and I started participating in online life, and I found a mailing list, a transhumanist mailing list, where they were debating things far more radical than human genetic engineering. That was the least of the things they were interested in. And one participant I came to eventually know much better was Anders. And after a while, after I revealed my socialist politics on that list, which was very much not in fashion with that group, I left that list. But not because of Anders, who continues to be the happiest and kindest and one of the smartest futurists I have ever known. But I persisted in trying to find my futurist, science fiction adjacent, politically progressive, transhumanist comrades around the world, which eventually led to Anders' friend and fellow Swede, Nick Bostrom, who had planted a flag online for the World Transhumanist Association. I had been an American delegate to the Socialist International in 1988 in Stockholm and hobnobbed with the leaders of the German SDP and the French Mitterrand's French Socialist Party and the British Labour Party. As a young socialist, I'd gone to the International Union of Socialist Youth. I believed in socialist internationalism and its capacity to change the future. And I went to Nick and I said, look, you've got this embryonic organization and I'm a good organizer and I could take it and I can do the same thing with futurist internationalism that we were doing with socialist internationalism. I propositioned him with this and he agreed. And that's around the time when I met George Dvorsky, who's in the back there, and I hope you all have a chance to say hello to him. George was in Toronto, got interested in these ideas, discovered us online, contacted me, and as a good organizer, good socialist organizer, I knew there was one other cadre in Toronto, and I put the two of them in touch, and I said, start a cell, and they did. And that was the beginning of many, many good things. And together, George and Bostrom and I and a growing cast of characters organized a network that ranged from Moscow to Paris to Rome to Nairobi to Oxford to San Francisco, and we built the World Transhumanist Association. But we quickly discovered that simply thinking that people had the right to enhance themselves was not the basis of a stable organization, because you can be a monarchist, you could believe that we should be ruled by robot gods, you could be a Putinist, there were two factions of Italian transhumanists who both thought the others were fascists. So, it was complicated, very, very politically complicated. So eventually, those of us in the organization who believed in democracy and the existence of states and the need for universal health care and the idea of equality and not some Ayn Randian paradise for the few, we decamped into the Institute for Ethics and Emerging Technologies and started doing our own thing, much more politically progressive thing. And we discovered that the organization that we had left was slowly being taken over by the likes of someone like Peter Thiel, who now, you may know, is the owner of the Vice President of the United States and one of the most nefarious figures in the billionaire fascist oligarch network of the United States. So these folks began to overwhelm us humanistic transhumanists, and we had to then define ourselves in contradistinction to them. And the way that we started to do that was we started to talk about being techno-progressive. that we were political progressives who also believed in the promises and possibilities of emerging technologies. We believed that human enhancement, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering could improve the human condition, but they had to be democratically governed, guided by the liberatory principles of the Enlightenment, liberté, égalité, fraternité. We were happy warriors for our new doctrine, and we were happy to be separated from the increasingly right-wing tilt of Silicon Valley futurism. By 2014, we had issued the Techno-Progressive Declaration, our own manifesto of what our mission should be in this debate. And we thought we were swinging futurists in our direction, but we were wrong. It's then when Trump got elected. And for me, that was an incredibly traumatic event, and it brought the naive narrative of progress that we had been promoting crashing to the ground. We had entered the stupid timeline. Right? We had, in the multiverse, we had somehow skipped over into the dumbness. And that's when an astonishing undergraduate from Toronto, again, entered our picture, offering to help us step up our game. Steve has never shared our full science fictional transhumanism or my democratic socialism or my Buddhism, but he wanted to work on exactly the same questions. And he's a genius and more productive than 99% of scholars in the field. And so how could we say no? In my darkest hours, I had wanted to stop building the IEET and start building IEDs. And Steve helped talk me out of that. I asked Steve, how can we work on the ethical and regulatory issues of the 21st century when the fascists want to take us back to the 30s, if not the 1890s? And I felt that I had been wasting my time on intellectual frippery. But Steve and George and the irrepressible Anders and people like them convinced me that we still had a role in shaping a better future. And I believe that this conference is a validation of that. Eventually, we found the resources without ever getting a dime from fascist billionaires, and we are now cooking on all 4 burners. We have a policy program, an educational program. We're running 3 podcasts, and we have this growing and very serious academic program in Boston and also now here in Europe, thanks to Steve. Steve took our amateurish attempts at an academic journal and turned it into a real one that actual philosophers want to publish in. He and Cristiano have established our book series with De Gruyter, which is now working on its 4th volume. Steve helped us build a program in Boston, which helped us launch incredible young scholars like Cody Turner, who you will meet this morning. Steve built this program that we are inaugurating, of which we are immensely proud. By the way, Steve and I have worked together since 2015, and this is the first time we've met face-to-face. And I want to point out to Graziano. Where are you, Graziano? Oh, Graziano's late as usual. Okay, but Graziano, the anthropologist of online screen culture, I want to point this out to him, that online life can build eudaimonia, because the 2 of us have built eudaimonia together without ever being face-to-face. So I credit Steve with not only helping build our program, but helping me, because I am a distracted ADD person, and I was a university administrator for the last 10 years. And Steve would come to me and say, James, what we really need to do this week is publish the next issue, fix the website, and by the way, this is my 5th reminder to you, and so could you please do it now? And that was very helpful for me. I need that kind of guidance. It's a data point in favor of this wonderful contribution that he's made. Talking to Claude about Steve to try to prepare my comments, Claude commented on what an odd pairing it was. It went back through 2,000 communications we've had in that time, and it pointed out how ADD I was and how hyper-focused you are and how funny it is to watch our communications. And also how ideologically diverse we are. I mean, Steve owes more to Father Lonergan than to my Condorcet, Buddha, and Marx, but we have found solidarity through a commitment to a common set of questions. We both believe that eventually people are going to try to have babies in space, and we should start talking about that now. That's going to be an important question someday, and even if we come to different conclusions, we agree that it's an important question. So I want to thank Steve also for taking me seriously as a philosopher. As I say, I'm not a real philosopher. I play one on TV. But the fact that I get intellectual acknowledgement from someone like Steve or Anders or Cody is, to me, incredibly important. And I want to thank them for that as well. So I'm here to warmly welcome HEET as a part of the IET family of projects on behalf of the IET Board of Directors, George of which is the chairman of our board. We are so very proud of what you've accomplished and for taking us seriously enough to invest in over these last 10 years, to build this academic NGO that is increasingly respected as a contributor to the intellectual and policy debates that I think are going to become increasingly important in the 21st century. So thank you very much, and let's welcome our panel.